At this point, I think we can all acknowledge there is an elephant in the room for NC State football. Now, offseason is the offseason, but there's pros and cons to what their next move might be.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Thursday show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that $5 bet wins, you'll get $300 back in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today and get started. FanDuel, play your game. Happy Thursday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, we're going to have a discussion that is early in the process, being that we still have half of a season to play, but I think it's a conversation worth having because there's been this buzz, and it's been longer than just this season. It's been since the end of last season, the fashion in which that went down. There's an elephant in the room, and his name, unfortunately, is Dave Doeren. And there's been some rumors about his future plans and what Boo Corrigan thinks about it, what the fan base thinks about it. So what we're going to do, we're having a quick discussion here, pros and cons to potentially NC State and Dave Doeren moving on. We'll start with the pros. The pros for NC State wanting to go in another direction / like we've said on here many times before, we are under the impression that Dave Doeren is considering retirement, and we think that will be the case. What are the pros of that situation coming true?
The pros are you reinvigorate the fan base, right? Like there's starting to be a little bit of a malaise setting in of like, this is who we are. This is just year in, year out. And I've said for a very long time, if you can win 8 games a year at the vast majority of colleges, if you win 8 games a year, they'll build your statue. Well, the reality is, if you're going to be that 8-game-a-year guy, you need a couple years to really lift up your average so that the year or two where you hit 6, everything is okay. We have no such years to speak of. We have a year or two of 9 under Doeren. I believe we finished with 9 wins, 2 or 3 times under Doeren?
I believe 3 times.
3 times under Doeren? I mean, what does that mean if those 9-win seasons did not result in going to the ACC championship? And the reality is, yes, Doeren has only had 2 years where he's missed a bowl game with this team. That was my true freshman year, his first year as head coach here, and then 2019, a lot of things went wrong there. But the reality of this thing is very simple. The fan base is ready for something new. And you may get the boosters back into it. And, I specifically talked about the fact that there were multiple people that are in very important and high places around here talked about, I'm done. I'm not giving anything else after the Virginia Tech game. And has anything happened since then to inspire confidence? Has anything happened since Virginia Tech to where a fan who said, I'm done would say, you know what? There's hope. There's a silver lining. I'm sorry, but beating a football program that is barely older than all of my nieces and nephews that ain't going to do it. That ain't going to get it done. So ultimately, I look at this situation, I say, the biggest pro I can think of, you get the fan base and the donors back, invigorated and saying, hey, new lifeblood, new blood is coming in here. Let's throw everything behind it to support it.
Yeah, I think you said it well. I mean, the air around the NC State football program right now, it's thick, it's stagnant. It just feels a little stale. When you suffer a colossal letdown like the 2024 season was, when you had perhaps the highest aspirations you've had in 12 years up to that point, to then plummet very quickly back down to earth and finish 6-6 and then lose that bowl game to ECU, everything got out of order very quick. And now you fast forward to the 2025 season, and this season is also not off to a fantastic start. I'll say it like that. When those things are true and you're in year 13 of a tenure, people are going to get restless. They're going to get tired of it. They're going to want something new. And that is exactly where NC State now currently is. They need a new energy. They need a new direction. They need a new voice. They need to hit the restart button and find something else to begin a new era. That is just as bluntly as I can put it. there's been a lot of pros to his tenure here. Like Kenton said, he's had 9 wins 3 times. He's had a couple seasons of 8 wins as well. He's been the most consistent for the longest period of time of any coach in NC State history. That's good. We've had some great times. We've beaten Clemson a couple times. Those have been fun. We had that one blackout game against Louisville. I'll remember that one forever. But the other side of that coin is you've had some pretty significant disappointment as well. You've not made it to the ACC championship game. You've not played in a New Year's Six Bowl. You've not beaten a lot of the teams that you feel like you should beat pretty consistently, like Duke or Wake Forest or Boston College, if you can believe that. Actually, there's a losing record to Boston College. Yikes. So you have all those detractors pulling in the opposite direction. When all of that is true, again, when you pull that cake out of the oven, it's just time for something else. So that is the biggest pro. You reinvigorate the fan base, namely the donors, because today's world, it's all going to come back to the money. I don't love it. You don't love it, but that's the world we live in. It's going to come down to money, and NC State football has been severely underfunded for an extremely long time. But when you underperform on the field as well, you're hitting the same wall again and again and again. And so until you change something, you're going to continue to be the same thing. And now for the cons, which is namely the coaching carousel. And we've talked about this already. It's going to get unhinged here in about a month's time, roughly. What are the cons to NC State and Dave Doeren parting ways after this season?
The cons are it could be worse. It could be worse. And who do you get to replace Dave Doeren? That is the biggest con. And I have been outspoken for years about that's not a good enough reason to keep a coach under most circumstances. 99% of the time, I would be right there with you. I'd say, yes, I agree. This is that rare 1%. Quick question, Grayson. What do you think is the biggest job that's open right now? You think Penn State's a bigger and better job than Florida?
Than Florida? I'm going to say no.
In the Final Four last year, and the team that has multiple championships in the last 20 years. And we're debating about who's the biggest. And Lord forbid, if we get into the jobs that we know are going to be open, everybody in Tallahassee, it's the worst kept secret in all of Tallahassee. The worst kept secret. Norvell is out. So now, those are just, even if we say, hey, Penn State ain't really a job you got to worry about because it's in a different region, as if coaches don't cross regions all the time, you're looking at having to beat out Florida and Florida State for a potential head coach here. You think that's going to be easy?
It won't be easy.
Do you think that that's going to be, and for all the people who are like, hey, there's a list of coaches, what's the list and all that good stuff, I have heard of a preliminary like, hey, this is who they are very likely to kick the tires on coming from some higher ups. And I want to keep this respectful because I don't want to step on any toes here. But the reality is some of those names are like, oh, that's a big swing. Not sure if you'll connect. Big swing. Big swing. And some of those names are like, I don't think this name will move the fan base. But it's the question is, how much does that con weigh against the pro? Of like, how much is anybody new going to get you motivated and get you up and say, hey, I think we could do this versus I want a big splash hire? Because if you're looking for a big splash hire in this cycle, I don't think it's going to happen. Honestly and truly, I don't think it's going to happen. However, if you're looking for somebody who is high risk, high reward here, oh, I think you could 1,000,000% get that. I think you could 1,000,000% get a guy that it could be much worse than was under Doeren, but this could be your guy that's going to deliver you that ACC championship that we have so long waited and starved and yearned for. So, I mean, you could get that ACC championship. You could get all those great things. You could be a perennial 4 or 5 win team. Who knows?
Yeah, like we said on here, if there is a change to be made, I wouldn't expect a massive name to be coming to Raleigh. It'd be a lower level name, but you hope that with a little bit of time, they can build into a consistent winner for the NC State Wolfpack. And that'd be fine. That'd be fine. But you got to get that right still. And so, again, talk about the cons here. You might have to go up against maybe Ole Miss or Florida or Kentucky or Penn State or UCLA or Florida State or Wisconsin. All of those teams that I just listed to you, they're bigger jobs than NC State. It is
just
what
a
it
fact.
is. It's just the facts. And so when you have something like that to consider, and then you start talking about money, NC State, much lower on the totem pole than every single school I just read to you again. It's going to get dicey when you're trying to reinvigorate the program in that way. I wouldn't expect a James Frank. Could it happen? Maybe it could. But I personally, with everything I just told you, I don't think it's very likely for NC State. And so the cons, the timing of this situation is not great if NC State is to make a change. But there's also the saying, the timing's never going to be perfect. You have to do what's best for the school, the program, and the future of NC State moving forward. That is what it is. So I'm not sure if I've said this on air, but I'll tell you now. My idea, and people are going to hate this, I understand why. I think NC State should consider essentially like a bridge year, like Stanford's doing. They kind of hire someone for 1 year, just one season, and in the background of that, they're getting their ducks in a row. They're figuring out the new direction of the program, who's going to take over after that. And I think for NC State, that might be a considerable option, being that money's going to be a problem, the coaching cycle is going to be a problem. And if Dave wants out bad enough, if he wants to go, then NC State, yeah, you're in a tough spot. So I wouldn't be surprised. Well, actually, I probably would be surprised if it gets considered, but I think they should consider possibly like a bridge year. And it could be somebody that's currently on staff. Just have somebody carry the team for one more year, and then you reassess in 2026 and go from there. Again, if you hate it, I get it. I don't think it's a great idea, but I think it's one worth considering. So those are some of the pros and the cons. Again, this is a condensed version of the larger conversation. We could talk about this for hours on end, but we also want to hear from y'all in the comment section, the pros and the cons to a potential coaching change for NC State this offseason. Coming up next, Louisville basketball is in the news for signing a semi-professional basketball player. How on earth is that the case? More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first Thursday sponsor is Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly known as Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard us talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. Whether you're a solo operator juggling everything or you're part of a large team, Quo makes everything easy to stay responsive and professional. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep business moving even when you're off the clock. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly known as Open Phone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO, quo.com/lockedoncollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. And you can even keep your existing number for free on Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. Our second Thursday sponsor is FanDuel. The NFL season is underway, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if that thing hits, $300 back in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football just a little bit more exciting when you've got something extra riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you just love diving into stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience that much better. So, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. FanDuel, play your game. Middle portion of our Thursday show, switching gears to some college basketball talk now. Louisville basketball made headlines earlier this week by signing a player that has already spent 2 years in the G League. G League Ignite point guard London Johnson has committed to Louisville in the 2026 class. A 21-year-old who has already played multiple years in the G League is in next year's recruiting class for Louisville. Now, many of you are thinking, didn't he forego his eligibility? That was my thought as well, but apparently that is not the case. So I skimmed through the regulations for this, and essentially you have to be within 5 years of your high school graduation. Johnson is. You have to be making less than $40K in the G League, or if you're making more than $40K, you essentially have to pay it back over time, which is crazy, but he is under that threshold as well. And you couldn't have ever entered the NBA draft process or signed an NBA contract in the past. London Johnson checks all 4 of those boxes, so he is somehow eligible by NCAA standards to play for Louisville. But here's the thing, Kenton. I think this is total crap. If you are playing in any level of professional basketball, I believe that your eligibility should be no more. How the NCAA can allow this to happen, a 21-year-old with essentially professional basketball experience to play college basketball, not even this year, but next year, is a complete embarrassment to the sport.
It is so much so that everybody's trying to avoid lawsuits that we're no longer doing what's right by these players. And I have said this a million times, and I'm going to say it a million more. And this ain't about this young man. This ain't about Louisville. Because I'd be saying the same thing if Will Wade did this. And I mean, I'm being very serious. I'm saying the same thing if Dave Doeren did this. And if you don't believe me, go look at my Twitter. The same way I complain about the refs with other teams, I also say, oh, the Lions got away with a terrible call there. So I remain my best. I try my best to remain consistent across the board. One thing I will tell you is this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. We are creating a lack of resilience. We are creating a lack of stick-to-itiveness. We are creating a bunch of unaccountable young people by having all of these things where a decision no longer means anything. The way that I grew up and where I grew up, when you made a decision, you had to stick behind it. Right or wrong, good or bad, and don't get me wrong, you could abandon that decision. You could say, hey, this is a bad decision. I want to go another way. But there would only be so many other options you could take after going with that original decision. What type of world are we creating for our young student athletes who are not at all thinking, you know what, we need to go the education route first. I need to go the route that's going to get me a degree first. And honestly and truly, I think that we need to relook how we look at degree progress and all that in the age of the transfer portal. I very seriously think we need to look at that and say, how are we 4 schools in 4 years, 5 schools in 4 years? And again, I will talk about NC State players that did this. If we have seen, if Van Allen Lubin got his degree and he's doing what he's supposed to do, he's not part of this. If he hasn't, that's him. He's included in this. All of these players playing in all of these different schools, are you getting a degree? Because the reality is, a vast majority, after their one shining moment highlight, or after that 1 week they win ACC Linebacker of the Week, they're going to go on to do something else with their life. They're not going to go on to play in the NFL for long enough to where they never have to work again. They're not going to go on to play in the NBA for long enough to where they don't have to work again. So what are we doing to prepare these young men and women for life after this? If we're telling them any decision you make, you can just reverse it at any time, at any moment, regardless of what the repercussions and impact are. There's no repercussion too big to come back from. If you choose to subvert the college process, but know that you can't come back. I can understand if we're talking overseas leagues, because I get it. That's a different quality of training and of the, what you have access to and who you're rubbing elbows with. This young man wasn't just on G League Ignite. He was apparently on teams' affiliates, meaning you were one pin stroke away from playing with Louisville legend Donovan Mitchell. And now you're at Louisville? Something about that don't ring right to me.
Yeah, quick fact check. I believe what I said was he's already played 2 years. No, he's played 3 years in the G League. So that makes this just a little bit worse. As you might imagine, other coaches around the country are pissed about this. One of them is Tom Izzo of Michigan State, and we have a clip for you. Here it is.
I listen to people talk of how kids changed. Kids aren't the problem. We're the problem. This was sprung on us again yesterday, where a guy can be in the G League for 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden he's eligible. Most of my people knew nothing about it. I don't think our commissioner. I am not real excited about the NCAA or whoever's making these decisions without talking to us, just letting it go because they're afraid they're going to get sued. So you're right. I said that this really bothers your coach if you're Michigan State fans. But if you want a silver lining in a cloud, I am going to call Magic tonight. I'm going to call Jaren Jackson, Miles, Gary, Max. This just goes to show you how ridiculous people that are in power make decisions. I mean, you know, and I'm going to get killed because someone's going to say, well, if they go pro, it doesn't work out, shouldn't they be able to come back? Well, what about the freshman you recruited there? That's somebody's son. And he thinks he's got himself a good place, and all of a sudden, shazam, they pull out of their hat and bring a 21 or 22-year-old in. To me, it's ridiculous. To me, it's embarrassing. And I love my job. I don't respect my profession. And I don't respect who's ever doing that. Whoever made those decisions, because they're afraid that a lawyer's going to sue them. Sooner or later, you got to fight the fight.
Sooner or later, you got to fight the fight, he says. Yeah, I mean, I think Izzo absolutely hit the nail on the head here. This is ridiculous. I know I already said the technicalities, but you're not far off from Will Wade calling up DJ Burns. Hey, big 30, smooth operator. You want to run with the pack this year? Come on back. What's stopping you? The NCAA is not going to stop you. They're afraid of you. This is ridiculous. Can we get TJ Warren back at state? Like, what's ultimately stopping you from doing that? The NCAA is spineless. They have no clue at all. Dave Doeren hit the nail on the head with that about 5 years ago now. How they can allow Louisville to get away with this. And I don't even put this on Louisville. They're just taking advantage of a lackluster rule put forward by the NCAA. How you can allow this to stand is absolutely preposterous. And I think he said a really good thing there about the high school level. This is going to kill high school recruiting if you allow standards like this to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And even beyond that, it's just this should feel gross to everybody. This should be the moment where we all recognize, all right, we've gone too far. We've gone too far. We need to dial this back in. Because again, we're talking about a young man that spent 3 years professionally here in America at our highest professional league that is under the NBA, and then gets to go play college basketball. I'm sorry. I'm just a big believer in if you choose that route, you choose that route, and you've got to make it work with that route. You've got to make it work with that route. Now, I will say, from the standpoint of, hey, I feel bad for the freshmen and all that, I get that, and I understand where Tom Izzo is coming from. The only thing that I would rebut that with is this. At the end of the day, the coaches got to make the decision. And yes, it does seemingly make more sense to say, hey, we'll take this grown man out of the G League for however many years he's playing, as opposed to a 18-year-old. But again, this is why I say we need to seriously look at how we view degree progress. We need to seriously look at, hey, these guys doing all this hopping around from school to school to school, where are they at in terms of their degree progress? Because at the end of the day, if that's the thing that gets this back choked down to say, hey, you need to graduate at minimum. You need to be a graduate from somewhere. I don't care if your degree is in basket weaving. I do not care. You need a degree in something. At Cass Tech, we got a saying, GTD, get that degree. The university is going to get what they want from you. They're going to get every drop they can out of you. And hopefully you're good enough that the fans will cheer and you'll put on the show and all that good stuff. But even if you're not, the university is going to get every drop out of you they can get. But on the other hand, folks are moving around, doing all this, moving and grooving and thinking, oh, yeah, I'm going, everything's good, and I'm going to make myself $20,000 this year. I'm going to make myself $30,000. I'm going to make myself $50,000. Here's the problem. If you make, let's say, $40,000 a year, right? $40,000 a year in college. Hey, listen, me and Grayson, you take us back to college and give us $40,000 a piece. Some crazy things might happen.
You don't want me to have 40K.
Yeah, exactly. Some crazy things might happen. But here's the deal, right? Grayson just turned 30. I turned 30 during the summer. We can both tell you as 30-year-olds, if you were to tell me trade in my degree right now, trade in my degree and everything that I've earned from it right now for $160,000, Grayson and I will both laugh at you very hard. We will both laugh at you very, very hard and say, boy, if you don't get out of my face, what are you doing here? So I say all this to say, at the end of the day, something needs to happen because, again, I'm not saying everybody is going to be an excellent orator and they're going to have, the verbal abilities that I do coming out of this thing. I know that I'm a little bit exceptional that way, not to big up and brag on myself, but that literacy and all that was something my mother pushed very hard. Okay, cool. But the reality is that piece of paper means something. And if it didn't mean nothing, people wouldn't be going into $40,000, $60,000, $80,000 of debt for it. Okay? And if people say, well, you only need a degree so you can go get this secondary degree. Well, you can't get the secondary without getting the first one. So these young men and women need to have something in place to kind of make sure that they get what they need in that regard.
I'll always remember the quote from Ohio State quarterback Cardale Jones way back in the day saying he didn't go to Ohio State to play school. Now, that was funny. Ha, very funny joke, but we're starting to lose the plot here. This is getting a bit ridiculous. So Louisville's in the news for signing a G League player. I don't necessarily fault Louisville for doing it because they're within the bounds of the rules, but the rules itself is a bunch of crap. Coming up next, we're going to round out our Thursday show talking about OnePack NIL and the smashing success they had for their basketball celebration. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. And our third Thursday sponsor is Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than just simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat out all the details. Mazda brings this very same approach into how they craft each and every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like players, Mazda sweats out every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Last couple minutes of our Thursday show, wanted to shed some light on something incredible that happened the other night for NC State basketball and for NC State in general. So OnePack NIL, which is the collective at NC State, they do incredible work and have been doing so for quite some time. They held their third annual basketball celebration. So Westmore and the ladies were in the house over at Angus Barn as well. Combined in just one evening, over $800,000 was raised toward OnePack NIL. And the reason I want to bring this up just real quickly, because we talk about money at NC State. We talk about buzz at NC State. We talk about the fan base at NC State. This is why we discussed when Will Wade was hired that it was a significant deal for the future of NC State basketball. Instantly, the fan base was tripping and falling and sprinting over themselves to buy back into this program. Pun intended. Buy. Get it? $800,000 in just one night to put forward to the future of NC State basketball, getting into the portal, getting into high school recruiting, anything they need to continue to raise the floor of both programs. This is a smashing success. And again, it just provides further evidence that when you get the fan base behind you, you can cause a reckoning.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, this is a situation where, again, the fans have shown up. They have shown up with the support with their pockets. The boosters have shown up. They have shown support with their pockets. This is why we had that conversation earlier about the pros and cons, because this is obviously a pro of making the coach a change. Do you think $800,000 is raised if we keep Keats? With all due respect to Keats, do you think it's raised?
No.
The new energy, the new blood, that is what has created this kind of energy to do this. And so it's completely understandable and reasonable that it happened.
And I'll tell you something else. If Will Wade achieves the goals that he set for year one, next year's basketball celebration, I would all but guarantee you they crack $1 million in just a night. If you show the fan base that you're going to talk the talk and you're going to walk the walk, you're going to get more buy-in than you could ever believe, more than we've probably ever seen at NC State, anytime, any sport, anywhere. So it just goes to show you there is a reckoning coming for NC State basketball. And this night in particular is in large part is what Will Wade was talking about. That will do it for us here on Thursday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box, mash that subscribe button if you have not already. Tell us your thoughts on Louisville signing a G Leaguer, how in the world that is possible to do. Give us your pros and your cons for the end of the year coaching discussion for NC State football. You know what I'm talking about. Anything else you have on your mind, drop that in the box as well. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Friday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.